Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Chief Deanna Nolet of the Seattle Police Department. There have been a lot of questions about what's recently been happening up in the East Precinct, and I'd like to recap some of the most recent events. On Sunday, we heard from protesters that the barricades were becoming a flashpoint and that the protesters merely wanted the ability to march peacefully in the street and gather in the area. We embraced that request and we removed the barricades. We wanted to be able to facilitate and support peaceful demonstrations, and we took the barricades down on Monday afternoon. We were made aware that there were several threats to burn down the East Precinct. As you know, the East Precinct is not a freestanding building. It is in fact connected to residential apartment buildings and to several businesses. We consulted with the Seattle Fire Department, who informed us that if the East Precinct were to catch on fire, that there is the possibility that the fire would spread and a very real possibility that those businesses and residences would be impacted. This would endanger firefighters, residents, and businesses. We felt that the safest plan at the time was to secure the building and have our officers relocated. We would like to be able to return to the East Precinct to our normal operations. This would improve our response times and our capabilities within the neighborhood. It will allow our detectives to return and to work the criminal investigation cases that they are working. We need to formulate a plan where we could achieve that while providing for public safety. We have been hearing from community members that they have been subjected to barricades set up by the protesters, with some armed individuals running them as checkpoints into the neighborhood. While they have a constitutionally protected right to bear arms, and while Washington is an open carry state, there is no legal right for those arms to be used to intimidate community members. If someone feels threatened or intimidated, we ask that they call 911 and report the incident. No one at these checkpoints has the legal authority to demand identification from anyone. Again, we ask if anyone is subjected to these demands that they call 911 and report the incident. We have heard anecdotally reports of citizens and businesses being asked to pay a fee to operate within this area. This is the crime of extortion. If anyone has been subjected to this, we need them to call 911 and report the incident. We feel incredibly strongly as a department that what happened to George Floyd was wrong and it was a crime. We fully support efforts to improve police accountability and to work towards improved racial equity. We are dedicated to working with peaceful protesters to figure out a way to move forward. We can only move forward if we can speak with one another in an atmosphere of safety and trust. Now, I assume there's going to be questions.
Yeah, can you follow up on the exclusion zones? Is it legal? Can they legally prevent people from entering?
It is not legal. However, in an effort to try to cooperate and collaborate and move forward peacefully, we're trying to get a dialogue going so that we can figure out the way to resolve this without unduly impacting the citizens and the businesses that are operating in that area. We did not pull the police officers. To be clear, we did not pull the police officers out of the area. We are still responding to 911 calls. We are still responding to life safety emergencies. What we did was board up the windows of the building in an attempt to secure it from any incendiary devices being thrown through the window or from anyone making injury and setting a fire. I'm not going to counter that there was a visible police presence.
Why isn't there a visible police presence now in this zone?
I think what we're doing now is we're really working on reopening a dialogue. We don't want the important message about justice and improving policing relations and improving racial equity to get drowned out by this small kind of faction of what's going on. What we want to do is give an opportunity for everyone's tempers to calm, and for us to approach the table with a view towards equity and towards conversation and towards dialogue.
When you talk about these threats, how credible do you consider them?
Well, I consider them incredibly credible in that there were incendiary devices used at some of the officers that were on the lines during the earlier protests. When you look at the fact that we had businesses downtown looted and set on fire, I think they were very credible threats.
Chief, how are you going to start that dialogue of talking with people to reach some sort of resolution? Who are you working with, and how do you the steps that you'll take to achieve that?
There is a whole citywide effort at this point to try to identify who the leaders are, to try to bring them to the table. We've got other city agencies involved as well, not just the police department. It's just a matter of establishing this dialogue. We would love nothing more than to be able to open all of our precinct buildings, to take down all of the plywood, to welcome people back into our lobbies, and to get back to delivering policing services to the citizens of Seattle. Right now, we are on priority calls only, which means that people citywide that need a police response are not receiving it. And that to us is just not acceptable. We need to get back to working together as a community to ensure public safety.
What can you tell us about the march that passed through City Hall last night, and what was SPD's response?
The march that passed through City Hall did not have any SPD response because there was none warranted. No one called for any sort of police response. There was no illegal activity occurring, and therefore, I think if you want any information on the march, you'll have to check with the march organizers.
Who's turned on the body cams? Is that order coming? Are the body cams turned on by the mayor?
So right now, our current body cam policy is dictated by the intelligence ordinance that was passed. That ordinance specifically prohibits officers from recording peaceful protests. If an executive order comes down that directs officers to have them on, we will certainly comply with that. At this point, though, the current law is that if it is a peaceful protest, the cameras are not on. The only time they can be activated is ongoing criminal activity.
Well, the mayor said she's doing it. She hasn't given you the order yet. She hasn't given you the order yet?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.